Warning. Gory Storytime is a horror movie review show by a son and his dad who thought that letting his 5-year-old watch scary movies was acceptable. If you are offended by horror or talk about blood and gore by a child, or if you don't want horror movies from the 60s through today spoiled, then there is a remote stuck in your couch cushion next to potato chip crumbs. Use it. And of course, parental discretion is advised.
Why? You didn't use any.
Shut up and start the show.
Welcome to Gory Storytime. I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and his father, Craig, and this is the show where we love to review horror movies, and this is our fourth in a series of things people fear in general. We did dolls.
Right.
What was the second one we had done?
We did...
Last week we did aliens.
Well, we did clowns first.
Yeah, we did clowns, dolls,
and then we did the doll one.
aliens, and now the devil.
Exorcising.
A lot of people, well, yeah, fearing exercising. No. A lot of people do fear the devil. I mean, there are people that don't. My dad, before he became a Christian, which was just, a year or two ago,
right.
He was agnostic my whole life. He wouldn't allow a Ouija board in his house. And that was as an agnostic. So I'm sure it hasn't gotten any lesser an issue for him.
I mean, once you're a Christian, you shouldn't be much afraid of the devil because you know...
But you also shouldn't play with, invite them into your home boards.
No, I'm not saying invite them in, but, their grasp on you is much less if you've been saved.
Read the book.
I have read the book quite a bit.
Anyway, my point is, a lot of people have a fear of the devil, so we went with the Exorcism of Emily Rose. We'll get into a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff later, but the basic story is...
This girl named Emily Rose had a demon or 6 inside of her.
Died during the exorcism. That starts right off with that, so we're not really spoiling anything. And the priest who performed the exorcism is put on trial for her death, calling it negligent. And then they have to decide in court whether or not he was negligent. That's the basic premise, right? And it is based on a true story from Germany, but they put it in the United States and had the Jennifer Carpenter, who played Dexter's sister on the show Dexter, as Emily Rose. And they were like, she's 19. And I'm like, that bitch is 30.
Yeah, well, that's because you didn't see much of her in the movie.
Yeah, but she was definitely not 19. They need to stop having, it's like if you're going through menopause, don't play a teenager.
It's 2048, and Snoop Dogg is playing a high schooler.
Yeah, right? But anyway, before we get into the rest of the show, why don't we roll that trailer?
I don't care about my reputation. What I care about is telling Emily Rose's story.
Holy Church venerates thee as her guardian and protector. To thee, the Lord has entrusted the souls of the redeemed to be led into heaven. Pray therefore the God of peace to crush Satan beneath our feet, that we may no longer return man's battle.
Do you understand how long they can put you away for this?
I want people to hear what only I can tell.
And what is that?
What really happened to Emily and why.
So she believed that her actual possession began that night at the hospital?
I think she did.
Emily had epilepsy. Father Moore's beliefs are based on superstition.
Did Father Moore ask you to give her any medical help?
I couldn't help her.
Why couldn't you help her?
Because there are no injections against the devil.
Emily?
Hey, can you hear me?
Demons exist, whether you believe in them or not. Just be careful, Aaron. There are forces surrounding this trial. Emily, can you hear me? It has begun.
For the glory of God.
All right.
Looks good.
I guess we'll have to go see it now. No. Now, before we get into the behind-the-scenes information, or as you like to call it,
The meat and beef of the show.
because he meant to say meat and potatoes, and apparently he's on a low-carb thing, so there's no potatoes. It was just meat and beef. Anyway, we have to give a shout-out to our real sponsors that actually exist, and that's why we have all this big fat stacks of cash in our wallets, is because we get paid big time for these real commercials. Anyway, this week, Gory Storytime is brought to you by Morningstar Soul Buying Emporium. When selling your soul, why take a lowball offer? We bring together at least 5 interested parties to bid on your soul. If you're going to condemn yourself to eternal damnation, you should at least get some bang for your buck. That's Morningstar Soul Buying Emporium, your gateway to riches beyond your wildest dreams. And also...
That got weird for a second. Okay. And by Exorcism, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, Exorcism. The over-the-counter solution for your possession problems. Have you ever woken up and realized you had something in you? Or worse, someone inside you? No. No matter how good it may feel, no one has the right to enter you without your permission. That's why we suggest Exorcism. Exorcism is guaranteed to work as well as any priest-run exorcism. So the next time you realize you've been entered, don't call a priest. Do what I did and reach for Exorcism. Exorcism, not Excedrin.
Yeah, you don't have a headache.
And tell that demon to go to hell. I didn't expect to break over that one.
Did you notice that you said, do what I did?
I did.
You woke up and found out that someone or something was in you that you didn't expect when you went to sleep? Anyway, now to the heart of the actual show.
The meat and beef of the show.
Okay, why was that in quotes?
It wasn't. I just
You started
moved my
to.
hands.
You started to. This movie was based on the true story of Anneliese Michael, a young German woman who suffered a similar fate to the fictional Emily Rose in the 1970s. The Exorcism of Anneliese Michael, an account of the subsequent court case by expert witness Felicitas D. Goodman, an anthropologist called in as an expert on possession. Michael's parents and the 2 priests who performed the exorcism were prosecuted, though the prosecution asked that the parents be excused from punishment as they had suffered enough. Ultimately, the accused were found guilty of manslaughter resulting from negligence, and the 2 clergymen were sentenced to 6 months in jail, which was later suspended, and 3 years probation. The most significant difference is that Michael periodically fasted for several months as part of her exorcism and remained on medication until her death, while the fictional Rose was incapable of eating due to demonic forces and decided herself to stop taking her meds with the consent of her care providers. The story was heavily adapted for cinematic purposes.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Jennifer Carpenter's audition was so convincing and scary that the director decided to cast her right then.
There were 2 dolls constructed for this film. The first was where Emily would... Wait, 2 dolls? It does say that. It's like, like full-size dolls. I'm picturing like dolls, and I'm like, there wasn't dolls. Okay. It was where Emily Rose would lock her limbs. The other was during the dorm scene where she was on the floor in a twisted position. The director ultimately never used a doll in the dorm room scene because he found out that Jennifer Carpenter is incredibly flexible. How do you find that out? Anyway, and decided that the positions she was able to contort herself into were more unsettling than what could be accomplished with a dummy. When Emily starts to bend over backwards in the church, Carpenter wore a harness to make the effect more inhuman.
Here I was thinking that was some sort of like
Special effect.
right,
Turns
like
out-
it was practical technically, but
You ever notice people that can contort tend to be really, really skinny? And she is really, really skinny.
that makes sense, I guess. But geez,
And she was also good in, what was that other movie that we were just talking about? Quarantine.
Quarantine. It is, I
And she's
think
good
we
in
reviewed it.
Dexter.
Yeah,
So she's just like good as an actress.
Right.
Especially with a horror twist.
oh yeah.
Anyway,
To prepare for her role, Jennifer Carpenter spent hours in a room full of mirrors. She tried out different body positions and facial expressions to see what was the scariest.
I'm sure it was hard to convince a woman to stand in a room full of mirrors and stare at herself for hours. That's Gory Storytime at yahoo.com for complaints. Anyway, in real life, Laura Linney's TV turned itself on a few times in the middle of the night during the production.
Well, of course, they were talking about demons, so she was getting messed with. Laura Linney recommended Jennifer Carpenter for the role of Emily Rose after working with her in a play. Linney described Carpenter as the best young actress I've ever seen. She's spectacular.
The silent scream helped Jennifer Carpenter get into the role of Emily Rose. Scott Derrickson found it terrifying in her audition.
Okay. The filmmakers say they weren't interested in making just another horror movie. They wanted to make a smart movie about whether demonic possession really exists.
All right. Scott Derrickson wanted this movie to make people ask questions, not think they got the answer. Makes sense.
Scott Derrickson had planned on using lots of visual effects to make Emily appear possessed, but after seeing how Jennifer Carpenter could contort her body, he decided he would barely need them.
So that's basically a similar
Dolls,
fact already.
right.
Yeah. I hate that. It's like no one goes through and says, hey, kind of already got that.
Thank you.
The filmmakers say that Rashomon from 1950 was a huge influence on this movie. In that film, 4 different witnesses recount the story of a murder in court from their perspectives.
The movie was filmed in Vancouver in 2004, but Scott Derrickson wanted it to seem like it could be anywhere and timeless.
Except the problem is, it definitely had to be the United States that it was supposed to take place in the movie because the issues that came up of talking about religion and God in court, and like the other lawyer
Yeah, but you
saying,
don't
hey, you
know
can't talk about it.
necessarily
No, but
like where.
But it was definitely meant to comment
Yes.
on that. Anyway,
Yeah.
the jury was not given scripts, so they were unaware of how the case would turn out. Mary Beth Hurt asked them how they would find Father Moore. The decision was split. So
Wow.
the actors as the jury were actually split on how they would find him. That's interesting.
Emily's bedroom and the scratches on the wall were based directly on a painting by Francis Bacon.
Bacon. Since this film's release, a persistent urban legend has sprung up amongst students at the University of Minnesota. According to the legend, Pioneer Hall, an allegedly haunted dormitory, was where Emily Rose was first possessed, as seen in the film. However, as Emily Rose is a fictional version of Anneliese Michael, a German woman who never went to U of M, this legend is bullshit.
Yes.
It says false, but come on now. People are dumb. I know someone from
Doesn't make
Texas
any
that tried to
sense.
tell me he remembers when the Texas Chainsaw Massacre case came to light, and I'm like, it happened in another
Well, first
state.
of all, if it took place at the time that it was supposed to, it was like 1970. So would he have been old enough to
Yeah.
remember?
He would have been a kid, but he tried to claim that, and he claimed he remembered hearing about it, and I'm like, you know that it took place not too far from Green Bay, right?
Right.
And it wasn't a family, it was one guy. His name was Ed Gein. Like, know your stuff before you go flapping your lips. Maybe he had family members that
Gein's a good
lied to
movie,
him
I've
about
known
it.
that.
But anyway.
Okay. Scott Derrickson was greatly influenced by the work of Dario Argento.
Argento, probably. I don't know who that is, but I'm guessing an artist of some sort. Scott Derrickson had Jennifer Carpenter watch The Passion of Joan of Arc to prepare for one scene. It's like, I have to watch a whole movie for one scene? Awesome.
Yeah, great. An extra in one scene actually claims to have underwent an exorcism.
Oh, no kidding. According to a newspaper article, the character Erin reads towards the beginning of the movie. Emily was 18 and attended Danbury State University. But wait.
But they said
She was 19 when she died.
Oh, okay.
So when she first went to college, that would have been about a year earlier. That lines up.
Okay.
I knew where you were going with that, and I get it.
Yeah.
But no.
Scott Derrickson says that as a Christian, he relates most to Campbell Scott's character.
Though the actual story happened in Germany, the movie takes place in the U.S. Oh, gee, I said
Wait
that.
a second. The colors in the flashbacks were made to look more realistic to mirror the tone of the testimony.
And I'm not going to read the last one because it makes it odd because I started. It doesn't really matter. We've done enough. Let's get into the opinion portion of the...
Well, first...
Oh, yes, absolutely. So we always like to give the score from Rotten Tomatoes. For those who don't understand it, they just take all of the critics' scores that were given, and basically if it's given a C or above, it's considered a positive review, and then they just tell you the percent of positive reviews. And if it's below a C, it's a negative review, and they give, that counts against it.
Right.
So this, by the people, it's 60% positive, but the reviewers had it at
a 44%.
Which sounds low, but understand that for a horror movie, that tends to be on the high end, unless it's like a, Alien or, Shining.
Right.
Very
like a groundbreaking.
Yeah, it has to be like spectacular for it to get over 60% usually, just in general for horror.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite scene?
I'd have to probably say my favorite scene was late in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
There was a character that they didn't know existed until he said, actually, I'm going to come forth and I'm going to talk about the stuff. His death scene.
Yes.
I loved the way that happened because he started thinking that he was seeing like ghosts and stuff or demons.
Yeah.
Right? And he was getting all spooked and he was like, I'm not going to talk. And then he got hit by a car spectacularly.
Yes, it was really good. I'm gonna go with, and some of those behind the scenes facts actually only like made it more so, the scene where she was all twisted up like that because it looked so realistic.
And the funniest part
to find
was,
out
right,
that she really contorted herself that way, it just makes it even better to me because it wasn't CG, it wasn't a doll, it wasn't special effects.
And she looked like she was being possessed.
Yeah.
But the funniest part was over the part
was
where
very
she was
realistic.
contorting like that and her eyes were turning white. The guy was saying how she was an epileptic and how it was just epilepsy.
Yeah. What they should have had is like, I don't know, maybe something like Sunshiny Day or something like that song by the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. Okay.
Something happy and light,
Yeah,
and she's going,
Yes. Great idea.
Feeling groovy.
Now I gotta think
What's
of
your
the
least
favorite,
favorite?
right?
Yeah,
Because this movie was
That-
really good.
But you have to have found something where you're like, I didn't really care for her.
The lawyer on the side of the people was a dick. I hated him. And that's scraping the bottom of the barrel because
It's
you
important.
needed him for the movie to happen.
Yeah.
But I hate him. So
you hate a character that you're supposed to hate, which means his character actually worked for you.
yes.
But your least favorite thing is, if I met him, I would want to not have met him because he's a dink. All right. My least favorite part would probably be, I guess, I'm not even sure, man.
Right?
I know, it was a really good movie. I guess it's the fact that Jennifer Carpenter just seemed way too old to be playing a 19-year-old. It kind of, when they said 19, what did I do?
You said, excuse me.
And then laughed out loud. And your mom also laughed out loud.
Yes.
So it's not just me. Like, it's like, come on.
I don't care, though.
I know, but it's kind of like you watch any movie where it's like, oh, these are teenagers, and it's like, really? He's got gray hair.
Right.
Like, I don't know. It does kind of take me out of it a little bit. If they had not said her age, it wouldn't have bothered me. But trying to claim she was a teenager, it's like, nope. She was flatter than, a year-old can of Pepsi. But that doesn't mean she wasn't older. It just means Jennifer Carpenter's not endowed.
Okay.
Let me put it this way. If she ever got breast cancer, the doctors would go, I don't even know how this is possible.
Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10.
I'm gonna rate it two separate ways. I'm gonna rate it as a horror movie, and I'm gonna rate it as a courtroom drama, which is not normally what we do here. But I'm gonna say, as a horror movie, I'm gonna give it probably like a 7. Because the horror was decent. But as far as a courtroom drama, I'm gonna go like 8.5. 8.5. Because to me, it was a better courtroom drama than it was a horror.
Movie.
But the horror was still serviceable.
Right. Okay.
What about you?
Well, if we're going to go with the two like that, I'm going to have to give the horror part of it probably a 7.5, 8.
Okay.
And the courtroom part a 9. Because I love courtroom movies.
We might have a difference of opinion on how high, but we seem to agree on the fact that the courtroom part was better than the horror part.
Well,
and not that the horror part was bad, but if you have to split it into the two things, the courtroom part was better.
But it's weird for me because a lot of movies that have a courtroom part, if done well, it's my favorite part of the movie. My Cousin Vinny, I love the part.
That movie is a courtroom drama, a courtroom comedy.
Right. The whole movie Primal Fear.
Yeah.
That we keep talking about.
That's a thriller courtroom drama.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so any last thoughts before we give all the info?
I don't have any last words. So.
Okay. So then, up on that side. That side.
This side. Boom. You can watch this show on Fact TV Channel 8 on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. and Fridays at 7 p.m.
And you can also get an email to us and say, hey, why don't you do this movie or whatever.
Right.
At gorystorytime@yahoo.com. Quick little thing I want to suggest. We have an idea for our next 4, but I want to start taking submissions. If you watch this show and you like this show and you like horror movies, if you can suggest a movie you think we should review that you love that we just haven't got to yet, and we look at it and it is one that we haven't done because maybe you missed it or something, I would like to try to set up something where 4 different episodes we have someone randomly come in that suggested a movie we haven't done and review it with us. So if that's something you'd be interested in, it's gorystorytime@yahoo.com.
And if you can't get us on the email, you can comment on one of our videos on our Gory Storytime channel on our Facebook,
page.
right? Or you can message the page because that's the thing that happens.
Absolutely.
So if you can't do the email, you can message the page.
That won't be for, after a few more episodes that we were discussing off the air, but that would be something we'd love to do. So if it's something you would want to come on and help review a horror movie, basically you would just have to think of your least favorite and most favorite scenes and what you would rate it from 1 to 10. We'll take care of the rest.
Yeah, that would be awesome, actually.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
All right, and anything else?
Like our page on Facebook, like Fact TV on Facebook. You can go to fact8.com and you can watch a bunch of back episodes of this.
And plenty of other shows.
A bunch of the stuff that they do.
You can also look for my YouTube, which is Juggalo Jake's, all one word, and it's got episodes of this. It's got my show Daddy Issues. It's got a few episodes of that on it. It's got music videos, bunch of stuff. So it's got our 100th episode, spectacular, hour-long special.
You can go to their YouTube, which I keep forgetting if it's Fact Bells Falls or if it's Fact Community something television. I don't know. On YouTube. If you looked up Fact TV on YouTube, you'd probably find it.
Yeah, they got some cool stuff there too. So I guess that's it for now. Oh, follow us on Twitter.
So I'm at Jason T. Jakes, capital J, capital T, capital J.
I'm at Craig Jakes, all one word, all lowercase. We don't really talk much about this. I actually interacted with Adam Carolla the other day, and you saw that, right?
Yes.
I like to interact with celebrities, and I love when they respond.
Yep. So until next time, I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and his father, Craig.
And sweet dreams.